Welcome back into the Bangtan Universe wormhole. In this video, we're asking you to look here because we found something which we can't explain, but which definitely needs explaining. And we hope we won't have to wait too long for an answer because it's a real head-scratcher. I'm talking about the illogical story of the uncountable Chays. Before I lay out the confusion about the Chays, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell so you won't miss out on our newest content. Now let's get started. The only member of the Chay family we can definitely identify is Chay Gho. As we explained in our last video, Gho was friends with Seokjin's father in high school, back in the days when Mr. Kim had friends. Gho went to school late one night after receiving a phone call that scared him, and he never came home. Seokjin's father spent about a year trying to find him with no luck, and it seemed like Gho must have been kidnapped or maybe even killed. But many theorists, including Q and me, think he's alive and in hiding. In fact, many of us think we found him. In two separate time loops, Taeyang has an extensive encounter with a drunk man in a khaki overcoat. Now, why would the notes give us so much detail about this man unless he's going to be important in an upcoming era? That, plus the fact that our 7 heroes speculate about Chay Gho's fate in notes 2 and wonder if he's gone into hiding, make us think that this man is Chay Gho. But if he is, how did he go from being kidnapped to hanging out in the open, disguised in nothing but an overcoat and a shaggy beard? And that's the easiest piece of the Chay Conundrum. Now we'll go back in time to October 10th of year 9. Book 1 of the notes tells us how a pack of goons barged into Seokjin's classroom in search of Mr. Chay's son, who happened to be Seokjin's friend. The boy's father was a successful businessman, but a week earlier he had shut down his company and vanished for reasons unknown. The goons made it clear that they planned to flush him out by taking his son hostage. Seokjin helped the boy escape and hid him in his bedroom, but the goons showed up at his home, where Seokjin's father forced Seokjin to let the goons take the little boy away. So what do you think? Is businessman Chay the same person as Chay Gho, the boy who disappeared in high school and maybe reappeared as the man in the khaki overcoat? Well, Chay is a common Korean surname, but it's not common enough for the BU writers to use it for different unrelated characters. But if businessman Chay is Chay Gho, then several unlikely things must have happened. First, he must have reappeared at some point after Mr. Kim gave up looking for him, and no one, including Mr. Kim and whoever was involved in his disappearance, seemed to care. Then he must have started a successful company and had at least one child without any repercussions for any of this. But about a decade after his return, he got in trouble again, and this time he definitely went into hiding because the goons said they wanted to flush him out by kidnapping his son. And speaking of flushing Mr. Chay out, the goons could only do that because when he went into hiding, he left his son behind. And we're still not done. Seokjin's father, who didn't seem to care when Chay Gho returned, assuming the businessman Chay is Chay Gho, insists that Seokjin turn over the little boy to the kidnappers. Now, we could probably explain all this with some mental gymnastics, but hang on because the story is about to get a lot stranger. On April the 6th, year 11, Jimin got lost at the Grassflower Arboretum and found a boy tied up in a shed being beaten by his captor. Jimin couldn't do anything to help the boy, so he ran away and developed deep emotional scars as a result. Now, according to this clipping, which appears at the back of the notes book 1, the boy was eventually found unconscious and was more or less okay. And look, that boy's surname is Chay. Now, is this the same kid Seokjin tried to save in year 9? It doesn't seem possible because Seokjin's friend must have been 9 or 10 years old in year 9, and the boy Jimin saw 2 years later is apparently 5. But are we really supposed to believe the BU contains stories about 2 unrelated boys named Chay who were both kidnapped? Or is it 3 boys? We don't know if Chay Gho was kidnapped, or maybe he disappeared for some other reason, like to avoid being kidnapped. But if Chay Gho was kidnapped, what are the odds that one or possibly two of his sons were also kidnapped? Well, time travel is such a big theme in the BU, so maybe there was only one Chay boy and he only got kidnapped once. Then he got de-aged by traveling backwards in time. But that sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? And if I took my speculations any further, they'd get even more ridiculous. For instance, I might say that Seokjin's friend and the boy in the Arboretum are both de-aged versions of Chay Gho. But that would be really crazy, wouldn't it? The fact is, we just don't know what's going on with the Chays, or even how many of them there are. Feel free to drop your own speculations in the comments, and come back next weekend for a far more rational discussion, and a revelation of 2 Easter eggs we've been hiding from you since the beginning of our channel. That's all for now. Thanks as always, and Apo Bangpo.